Folks, I just got back from a midnight screening of Ant-Man, and a lot of people have been nervous about this film. It's gotten a couple of mixed reviews. We all knew about all that backstory stuff that went on in the making of this film. And I've heard a lot of people come out of this film saying, oh, this is my favorite Marvel film. This is my favorite Marvel film. It beats out all the other ones. And yeah, man, if you're saying that, odds are Marvel paid you to say that, okay? But look at me. I got what, less than 1,000 people watching my channel? Nobody's paying me anything. So if you guys want to hear a real review, you want to hear the hard truth about this movie, you come to me. And the hard truth is, oh my god, I loved it. Hi there folks, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgi, and this of course is my Ant-Man review, and wow, I was not expecting to like this film that much. I'll admit, I went into it with low expectations, because I already made a video talking about all the stuff that went on behind the scenes of this. It's right here. I made it in response to the first Ant-Man trailer that came out. You can go ahead and click on it there. But to sum up for you guys, yeah man, I thought this movie was going to be a mess, because we all knew about like directors coming and going and writers coming on and off and just adding their own things, and it's like, oh man, this is just gonna be a jumbled mess. So in my mind going into this, I'll admit, my requirements for this film were to have it have a story and maybe some character development, and then that's it. I was like, okay, as long as you can provide me with just that, we can walk away and say it's salvaged in some way, shape, or form. Like, we can view this as the weird stepchild of the Marvel franchise. I was like, alright, it got messed up by all the people who came into it, but it still is able to function, so fine, okay. That was kind of a weird metaphor that got away from me there at the end. But the point that I'm trying to make here is, not only does it function, not only is it a film that has a story, but this is honestly in my top 5 favorite Marvel films. I was not expecting it. Like, if you told me 3 months ago, okay, Age of Ultron and Ant-Man are coming out this summer, which one do you think is gonna be the better film? I've been like, it's not even a contest. And now after this, it's like, don't get me wrong, I had a lot of fun at Age of Ultron, but I gotta give it to Ant-Man. Now don't get me wrong, it's not a perfect film. It certainly does have problems in it, and I am going to talk about those problems. However, most of the problems I have involve kind of spoilery stuff, so I'm going to bring those up in my spoiler-filled discussion. Yes, as always, whenever I do a review for one of these big films, I also do the spoiler-filled discussion afterwards, just like I did for Age of Ultron, and just like I did for Jurassic World. I didn't do one for Jurassic World. I promised everyone I was going to, and they all said I'm looking forward to it, and then I never actually did. Oh! Anyway, Ant-Man. Oh my god, why did I look directly at the lights when I was doing that joke? Kids, when making your YouTube videos, try to figure out where your lights are going to be placed, and then work everything else around that. Now, for anybody who doesn't know anything about this character, or more accurately, the way the character was adapted into this film, because it is indeed very different, Hank Pym was this scientist who created a particle that allowed him to shrink. He could shrink his own organic body and inorganic body. And he even invented a helmet that allowed him to communicate with ants. And he and his wife used to be spies for the United States government, for S.H.I.E.L.D. in its early days, but his wife ended up passing away. That is not a spoiler, by the way. That was big news all over the place. Like, they have talked about this numerous times. And even if you manage to miss all that news, they bring it up early in this film. That is not a spoiler in any way, shape, or form. But so he calls it quits, but then suddenly his company goes, hey, we figured out how to duplicate your thing, and now this other businessman who took away ownership of this company and is also a major a-hole is going to use it for evil. So he has to figure out a way to steal that suit and steal the serum back. Enter Scott Lang, who is a thief, but he's one of those Robin Hood thieves with a heart of gold, robs from the rich, gives to the poor, because he got into trouble for basically stealing from a company that was stealing from its customers, and then he made all of their evil doings public. And yeah, that's got him sent to jail, but made Hank Pym start going, this guy might be who I need. So after a long series of events, Hank Pym meets up with Scott Lang, gives him the suit, makes him the new Ant-Man, and now it's up to Scott, I almost said Scott Pym there for a second. I'm combining my Ant-Man into one. It's up to Eric O'Grady to go and stop this company from using these chemicals for evil. That was a joke for all you comic book nerds out there. Enjoy it. Now the first thing that I have to point out is that this is not your typical Marvel movie. Don't get me wrong, it still has that sense of fun and that sense of humor that you have come to know and love from the Marvel films, and thank God for that, because I seen some trailers recently that makes me really want that right now. But it is not your typical Marvel film. It is not one of your, okay, they get the suit, they go, they fight the bad guy, then there's a moment of no fighting, then there's more fighting, then there's no fighting, then there's the big fight scene at the end. It's not that film at all. This is a heist film. It is, and the majority of this film is setting up the heist. It is all leading to that. It is prep for the heist. It is scouting out the heist. It is forming the team for the heist. And it's like, wow, this is refreshing to get that sense of humor that we know from the Marvel films, and that sense of fun that we know, but in a brand new format, in a different kind of story, and I really enjoy that. Don't get me wrong, there are still some fights in this, but it's not like your typical Marvel fights. It's not like the, okay, here's the bad guy versus the good guy. Okay, round 1 over. Here's the bad guy versus the good guy again. Round 2 over. Big fight scene in. No, in fact, honestly, we've all seen the fight with Yellow Jacket in the trailers. There's only one fight with Yellow Jacket. It's towards the end, and holy cow, the tension that leads up to that is so big that it feels epic. But it's not just that fight scene that was tense, the entire heist itself. Like, it's a superhero film, you know things are going to work out, but still, watching it, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, that guy might die, she might die, that thing might die. Oh my god, nothing feels safe in this. Like, they did a great job of building up the tension throughout that entire heist scene. And it flowed so well. This film, I can't believe how well this film flowed. I gotta put that out there. Because we all heard about, you know, directors leaving, directors coming on, directors leaving again, another new director coming in, like 5 people writing this. Normally, when you have that happening, it's a jumbled mess. This flowed so well, it felt like just one person did it. And that doesn't just go for, like I said, the tension or the heist, but also for the humor. Humor is a hard thing to do. A lot of people think, oh, comedy's easy. No, it's not. It is a very difficult thing to pull off. Notice how many times I fail every single week on these videos. But yeah, it is a very, oh, now I made myself feel sad. But no, it is a very hard thing to pull off. And this is one of the funniest films that Marvel has put out. And it hits consistently. Like, when I saw those trailers and they were trying to be so dramatic and so serious, I was like, oh god, please tell me Marvel isn't trying to make Ant-Man their serious franchise. And they're not. This film is hilarious. I laughed constantly throughout this film. Next to Guardians, it is their second funniest film. Alright, let's talk about a couple of the performances specifically. Paul Rudd is the protagonist. He's Scott Lang. So this whole movie, I'm not gonna say it's riding on him, because this is an ensemble piece. Everybody does their job. But if your protagonist is weak, all the supporting characters in the world can't really help it. Luckily, he's not weak. He does a great job in this film. And let's just say with Scott Lang, you definitely like him because it's Paul Rudd. He's the most likable man in America. But also, you dig his sense of humor, you dig his comedy. You also just really feel for him wanting to see his daughter. You really feel for it. In fact, there was a great moment in which he is figuring out how long it will take him to pay all of his child support so that he can go and see his daughter again. And you're like, oh man, that just broke your heart when you saw that. But the other reason why you like him is because we as audiences love competent people. We love people who are good at what they do. And Scott does not want to be a criminal. He does not want to be a criminal. However, when you see him actually being a criminal, oh my god, is he good at. Like, he is so smart when he is a criminal that you want to root for him. You know he shouldn't be doing this, but he is so good at it. It is an art form. Like, I looked at Paul Rudd and I was like, no way am I going to buy that guy as a criminal. Oh my god, Paul Rudd could be breaking into my house right now. That is how good he is in this film. Next up, Hank Pym is played by Michael Douglas, and Michael Douglas is one of those guys who I was always like, yeah, he probably views superhero films as being silly, stupid things, like little childish things. He probably views them as beneath him. But even if he does feel that way, he showed up to work. Like, this was not just a paycheck to him. He showed up and went, I'm going to give it my all, because there are moments between him and his daughter, or moments where he is like talking about what happened to his wife, and I'm like, oh my god, I believe you. I fully believe you. And one of the defining things about Hank Pym in the comics is that he is bipolar, is that he has mood swings, is that he has, you know, he's got problems. He's got problems that he has to deal with. And I was like, okay, are you going to bring those up in here? And they don't fully say it. But they do kind of like hint that, yeah man, he's got some problems. And they hint at, I wish they had done a little bit more with it, but for what they do with it, Hank Pym does a great job with it. Hank Pym, wow, that's how good he was. I'm not even calling him Michael Douglas anymore. He is Hank Pym. Evangeline Lilly plays Hope, the daughter of Hank Pym, and they have a, let's just say, troubled relationship. And I won't get into all the reasons why it's a troubled relationship, but let's just say that when they go into it, when they actually start to talk about and they go into the backstory of their relationship, I was like, this has depth. This is not like some paper-thin argument that's all solved with some big misunderstanding. No, this is an actual thing. And that's great because whenever you see Evangeline Lilly, like, basically telling her dad, what is wrong with you? Why could you not have been a better parent? How did you screw this up so bad? And why am I not Ant-Man? Why is this some random guy being the new Ant-Man? I trained for this from day one. When you see her acting like that, you fully understand her. You're fully on her side. I mean, you're also kind of on Hank Pym's side because you can also kind of see his point of view from it, but you also fully see her point of view. You're like, oh my god, yeah, everybody in this has a legitimate reason to feel the way that they do. Like, I love that. There was no, like, villain in these arguments, okay? Everybody was treated equally, and I love seeing that. Now, let's get into the actual villain of the film. Corey Stoll plays Yellow Jacket in this film, and he is the evil businessman who wants to take the Pym particles. And at first it was like, man, you're just being your typical average evil corrupt businessman. Seen it a dozen times already. You don't get much of a backstory on him. You get a little bit, and you're like, okay, I guess that's why you're acting this way. But for the most part in the beginning, you're like, alright, he's just being that typical cliche businessman. However, there comes a point in this film, and it's actually kind of early on, in which he does something that is so cold and so evil. I literally, like, I can't even describe to you the face that I made, but I was watching this with my girlfriend, and she actually turned to me about a minute after he did it, when I was still making the face, and she was like, are you okay? Because holy cow, the thing he does in here just sent shivers down my spine. Like, I'm actually about to vomit right now just thinking about it. Now, there are two problems that I do have with this character, and they are totally spoilery things, so it will come up in my spoiler-filled discussion. But without spoiling it, I will say that the two problems I have are script things. They are two of the loopholes that I feel are in this. And like I said, I think this was a smooth script, but there are like occasional little missteps. And I won't say what they were with his character, but there were two things that made me either say, wait, but how does that work? Or, how on earth did you know that? And speaking of other missteps with this film, there is indeed a romance. I won't get into any more details on it, but I will say that when it happens, I was like, when did that happen? Was that all off screen? Because that was so not leading towards a romance. So that was a little bit of a misstep, but, you know, there are great moments between the characters in that romance. Just, you know, not romantic moments. And there's also a moment in here in which they do, I'm not gonna lie, they stop the movie in the middle to basically advertise the Avengers. To basically go, here's how this is going to tie in with the Avengers. And there's a moment before this in which they mention the Avengers, and I thought it was brilliant. Like, I thought that was a brilliant way to tie them in with the Avengers Cinematic Universe. And I thought, done, you did it, now you can get out. But they stopped the whole movie just to tie it in with the Avengers. And it reminded me of how Iron Man 2 basically did the exact same thing, except here's the difference. Iron Man 2, when they did, kinda sucked. This movie, when they did, was awesome. In fact, a lot of the complaints that I've been reading online, I understand those complaints, but I can follow up almost all of them with, yeah, but it was awesome. Except for what they did to Janet Van Dyne. I still have a problem with that. But I'll talk more about that in the spoiler-filled discussion. And the last two people I want to talk about is Judy Greer, who plays Scott Lang's ex-wife, and that means that she is the mother to their daughter, Cassie. And then Bobby Cannavale, who is the cop who ended up marrying Judy Greer's character, and now he's the stepfather to their daughter, Cassie. So, just to make that clear for everyone, Scott Lang is a criminal. His daughter now has a stepfather, who's a police officer. They don't get along. And yeah, Scott Lang, you want to be on his side. You want to be just like, man, just let him see his daughter. But that's another thing that I really like about this movie. I mentioned it earlier on, but I like that this movie really does show you everyone's side to this. Like, you are meant, obviously, in the beginning to go like, come on, Bobby Cannavale's character. I wish I knew his character's name. But come on, Bobby Cannavale, just let him see his daughter. But he makes it pretty clear very quickly. It's like, you're a criminal. I'm a cop. I'm not going to let you see your daughter when you are a criminal. It's like, okay, he kind of does have a point about that. And then later on in the movie, when it comes time for, it's like, okay, now it's time to see like the connection between his character and Cassie. It's like, oh shoot, he might just be the stepfather, but he actually does care for her as well. It's like, they really do not make him a two-dimensional character, and I really dug that. However, Judy Greer's character is totally a two-dimensional character. Judy Greer is quickly becoming that actress who is just associated with the mom who comes in and ruins the fun. And Judy Greer, you're a great actress. You need better roles than that. I'm sorry, you do. And yeah, they don't give her squat in here, which stunk because yes, Bobby Cannavale's character definitely needed dimensions, and I'm glad they gave it to him. We probably also should have seen some stuff from her side. We should have seen some stuff from how she felt. And aside from just one, typical token speech of, no, Scott, you need to be the hero that your daughter sees you as, which was another problem I had, because I thought that the origin story of Scott Lang was very original in here. I loved how they carried it out. It was great. But that one line just really stuck out to me as wow, that is super cliche. Now before we go, let's talk about the special effects in here. I kept hearing all these stories about how Marvel was going to try and push the limits of special effects with this film. In fact, I kept hearing stories that they were making like super tiny cameras so they could really capture like that point of view, which is a cool idea, but brother, we got CG right now. You don't really need to create new cameras. But then after I saw this, I was like, maybe you need to create those small cameras because this looks awesome. Like, yeah, there are moments in which he is tiny and he is in like a supercomputer and it's like, that's just a made-up machine you just made, so it doesn't really mean anything. Still looks cool, but it doesn't really mean anything. But there are also moments, like especially when he's training, in which he's going through real-life stuff at that size, and it looks awesome. Like, it's like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids times 100. And that goes for the ants, too. They actually introduced multiple kinds of ants, and every single one of them, like, you look at it and you're like, that ant is totally different from that ant. And they each have, like, their own purpose, and they get into what their purpose is. And when you're tiny, and you're actually looking at them like that, it's like, yeah, that ant is specifically built for that one thing. And that's really cool that they're able to do that with it. So yeah, I don't have a rating system per se, but I'm going to give this one an A-. I really want to bump it up to a solid A. But there were some hiccups along the line, so I do have to take those into account, and I do understand the problems that other people have. It's not like when people have problems with this, I look at it and go like, I don't understand that at all. I can understand the problems that a lot of people have. However, I'm not gonna lie, I think the majority of the reason why people don't like this more is just simply because they knew about all the stuff that went down with Edgar Wright, so they're just like, well, they were stifling his creativity, so we're gonna stand with the creators. And that is admirable, and I love it when people stand behind the creators. However, this was still an awesome film. They still turned out a great product. Alright folks, thank you so much for watching this. If you want to see more from me, then make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Also, you can follow me on Twitter and Tumblr for more information from me, and if you want to see some more reviews from me, I'll have them posted up at the end of this video. But remember, I don't just do reviews of movies that I want to see, I will also do reviews of anything you guys ask me to. I do the requested review show here on this channel, in which you guys can request anything you want me to review, whether it be a movie, television show, comic book, video game, anything that I could possibly get my hands on. So, if you know of something that you want me to review, leave that in the comments down below. I thank you guys for watching this video, and come back next time.